whatever you write, other people will criticize. Even published work gets criticized when we do the literature. So criticism is an ongoing thing in academia. And always remember that it's a criticism of ideas. It's not criticism of you. I think the only time I can say I have failed as an academic is if I will compromise myself ethically, if I will do things that I know from an academic integrity perspective are unacceptable. That's the day I will say I have failed as a person. I'm struggling to put my information clearly from articles that I've read. So I also have, this was on TikTok, right? But the video is not out yet. It should be coming out soon. But the most common mistake that people do with literature reviews is that they make a summary or overview of all the literature that is out there, and then they put it on the literature review section and say, here's a review of the literature. That's not the review of the literature. These are your initial notes. That's the first step to the literature review. You have to be able to summarize each piece that you have read. But now you need to synthesize that. That's where your literature review process begins. So can you tell us where these authors converge? And is this convergence problematic or not? If it's problematic, you have a research gap. Can you tell us where they diverge? They're talking about different things. And is this problematic or not? If it's problematic, you have a gap. Can you see where there is actually contradictions? So they're actually saying things that are contradictory. They say the pen is in my left or is in my right. It cannot be both in my left and my right. So one of them is right, the other is wrong. So this is a gap. How am I going to address this? And other things that they are silent about that I would have expected to see. And why are they silent on that? That's that's potentially a gap. But with this, I always say then just take the time to double check that the omission doesn't have anything to do with limitations in the tools or resources that will be necessary to address that question, because sometimes that's what it really is. And so the literature review is more than just saying, here are all the things that these different articles have said. But then when you get these different parts to talk to each other, what insights are you getting out of them? What are the shortcomings then that you're able to identify as a result of getting these different parts to talk together? And then this is where you can say, this is where the gap exists that I am going to address with my own piece of work, right? I tend to worry about the grammar more than the ideas and concepts. Yeah, you guys have sat through the life with me. I know I have made a lot of grammatical violations. Some of them I noticed the moment I said them, but I was not going to go back and correct that because you still heard what I was saying. You still understood what I was saying, right? So in the interest of progress, I just keep going. Some of the mistakes I will correct when I do the captions, then I put the right word in place. But, what I have said now is not important because you still understood what I meant. So this is what we need to, don't worry too much about the English or the grammar or whatever. As long as people can track your thought processes, you're doing great. How can I improve my academic writing? Lorinda, a good writer is a good reader. To become a better writer, you have to read, and you must read with intent. Read the academic works of the other people in your field. Figure out how they are structuring arguments, how they are bringing counter propositions into problems. Look at how they are presenting their methods. What is it about their work that keeps you engaged, that makes you read from beginning to end? What is it about their work that makes you stop and think, you know what, this is enough, I can't do anymore? To become a better writer, you do have to read. So you read to learn from those before you what the conventions of the field are, because every field is going to be different. And this is why I struggle with specific questions, like someone says, I'm doing biostats, how do I write an intro? I don't know. There are conventions for biostats that you will have to internalize through reading the biostats papers in your field. That's going to tell you what you need to do, because those are the accepted rules and conventions that lead to published work, right? So that's what you need to master. That's what you need to understand. And then it's not just understanding what they are doing, it's understanding the logic underlying those choices. So the reflective aspect when you read becomes very important. And then the other reason why reading is important, I've said this repeatedly and I will say it again. When you are reading, you are picking the raw materials that are going to go into your own knowledge production process, right? So if you struggle with thinking, it's probably because you haven't read or you've hardly read. Because if you have read, then you have some things that are going to kickstart your own thinking, leading to your own creation of something new. So to write well, you do need to look at what other people are saying, actually take into account their ideas, the ways in which they are valid or appealing, or the ways in which they could be invalid or not appealing. And then that gets you started on your own processes. And then finally, just write a lot and accept that the first things you write will be rubbish. Always, my first drafts are rubbish, and they're not always going to be the last thing that I write. I cannot think of anything in the last few years that I wrote in one take and I looked at it and I said, yep, this is good, it's gonna have to go. I even write news articles for the conversation sometimes, and sometimes I have quick turnaround times, like they look for me on a Monday and say, we need this published by Tuesday afternoon. Whatever I write, I'm going to revise first for myself before I submit it on their portal. And then after they look at it and they ask questions, and then it gets edited again and again. So even expert writers don't write the thing on the first take and then it goes, maybe the Christmas card to my neighbors. I can do that in one take. But if there are things that require thought, if there are things that mean that I have to think about my readers and how they might approach the problem, and how I might position different arguments to keep them interested and to not lose them or to avoid that they misread what I'm saying, then I have to put a lot of careful thought into that. So you write a lot, you accept that you're going to have multiple drafts in between, but then you keep just committed to it, and then you will be fine. So to improve your academic writing, I think, is to do these things, Lorinda. But also, I think to become more comfortable with criticism. Whatever you write, other people will criticize. Even published work gets criticized when we do the literature reviews, right? So criticism is an ongoing thing in academia. And always remember that it's a criticism of ideas. It's not criticism of you. Right? So I have learned to separate my ideas from myself. If someone says this is a dumb idea, I can sit with it actually and think about it, because they didn't say you are dumb. That's a different thing. Smart people generate dumb ideas and the other way around. So it doesn't say anything about me. So just be comfortable with criticism. Be comfortable that you will send it and someone says it's not good enough. Then look for the constructive ways in which you can make it good enough. And then you will be fine. What are the ethical ways to use AI in academic writing? The number one indicator for whether your use of AI is ethical is whether still what you present at the end of the day is your own work. So the biggest fuss with AI in academic writing relates to what we call false authorship, where AI essentially did the work and you passed it off as your own. And so this authorship actually plays it out at different levels. If you didn't read the literature yourself, AI summarized it or AI wrote the literature review, that's false authorship. That's not your own work. If you had a bunch of ideas and you said, AI, these are my ideas, now write an entire essay based on this, that's not your own work. AI did the work. So ethical uses of AI at the end of the day come down to, can we trust that this is your work in whole or in part? So sometimes you see students say, oh, but I just used it to write the summary. Well, the summary was written by AI. That's false authorship on that entire chunk of your work. That's a violation from an academic integrity perspective. So this is the best way that you can know for yourself. And then once you know this, you can see things like, okay, maybe AI did some article summaries for me, but I still have to double check that what it says is summarized is there, because we have issues with misattribution where it says this author said these things, but this author actually didn't really say those things. We also have issues with fabrication of sources where it says, Noni wrote this paper together with Dr. Abdallah, but no, we've never collaborated. Although there's a good chance we should collaborate. Why not? We talk methods together all the time. So those are the things that help you to see whether you are being ethical or not. Some unethical behavior can be detected. So like when you have used a fake reference or you have misattributed claims, some unethical behavior can go undetected. And this is where we need people within and of themselves to have that intellectual conscience where they will say, this is a line that I will draw. I will not compromise myself in this way. I was saying in one other live the other week that I think the only time I can say I have failed as an academic is if I will compromise myself ethically, if I will do things that I know from an academic integrity perspective are unacceptable. That's the day I will say I have failed as a person. But if I wanted to solve an intellectual puzzle and I tried to get it published and it got rejected, it's not failure. I haven't failed yet. I'm going to have to go and figure out what it is that I did wrong that made me get rejected this time, and then I will try again. I have a paper I've been trying to get published for 3 years. I've just been incredibly unlucky with that paper, but I haven't failed yet. I think it's a great paper. I start to learn some of the things I did wrong in earlier rounds. I still have doubts over some of the stuff that is in there now, but I think I'm at a better place in terms of articulating why it's an important paper, how it is different from the things that we already know, and why having this piece of work out there is going to be useful for how we think about problems of supply chain resilience and supply chain risk management in my field. So I haven't given up yet. I have failed multiple times. I think about 5 journal rejections, 2 of them desk rejects. Yes, it's happened. I failed in that front, but that's not an ultimate failure for me. So what is ethical is when, at the end of the day, you are ultimately the original author of that work. The ideas are yours. The things that you claim you read, you have actually read. The sources that you cite, you have actually read. And what you present as the final manuscript is actually your own work. And yes, you can ask AI to fix the language errors, for example. But if you ask it to heavily edit, then you have a problem as well. Chabo, Doc, do you have YouTube for one to be able to take notes? Yes, I have a struggling YouTube page, and I'm always pleading, please, guys, cross over to my YouTube page, Dr. Noni Extra. And this is where you will find in-depth content on pretty much everything. I have a recently provocative AI video. When I posted that video, I lost a subscriber. Maybe I will lose more, but I thought it had to be said. So there we are. I do have a YouTube page, so you can get more in-depth content and you can actually be able to go through it at your own pace. My understanding of the TikTok audience is that they like things in bite sizes. So even the long videos I make on YouTube, I break into smaller TikToks when I post them on this platform. So please do support my YouTube page. Do please donate views on there, because I have my nephew who's paid family rates. That's really not enough. It's not going to buy his lunch for the week even. So if I want to keep him helping me, I'm going to have to monetize so that he can get his income off of there. So please do support my YouTube page. Share it with your friends and family and grandma, whoever is just willing to support or help a sister out. Just let them know my YouTube page is there. I think there's a bit of something for everyone. I even have videos where one of my favorite videos that is not doing so well yet is this video on advice for the university years, the things I wish I had known about life during the university years, because I think if I had done things differently, or if I had seen life in that light as a university student, I probably would have taken a more efficient route to where I am today. Or I don't even know if I would be here today, but probably wisdom would have caught up with me sooner than it actually did. So there are things in there that I think will be for everyone. And I do get people who say, I'm not even in academia, but I do like this take on writing. For example, the idea that writing is thinking, or the misconceptions we have about academic writing. So those things seem to land with a wider audience, even though the intention was never to create them for a large audience.